This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today, guys. A tough one for us because we now have Cap Friendly updated to take a look at what 2019-2020, 1920 as Ken Holland likes to say it, is going to bring to the Edmonton Oilers cap-wise. I've explained before kind of what the cap mess looks like and what might and might not be done. I explained a really easy little move that frees up a couple million, maybe a couple million in cap space by not re-signing Jujhar Khaira. However, the problems do run a little bit deeper, and I will explain that as we get going. So it's you look at the cap friendly for the Oilers right now. The number is what they have available in cap space is $10.758 million. So that's it's a lot of cap space, but let's go get over to this graphic I've done up for us today. And now let's get explaining why that 10.758, whatever the heck the number is, isn't as good as it needs to be for the Oilers. So right there on the top line, you look at Draisaitl, McDavid, Kassian. Right there, that's over, almost 24 million in cap space, 23? Yeah, 23 million in cap space on a top line. And now, if you're me and you're you, and we all have had this debate, is Kassian really the top line solution? At the end of the year, he absolutely was, so why not give him credit and try and keep that momentum going into next year? We did that last year, though. We kept Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Ratty together, and it just didn't work. So let's not kid ourselves that maybe, potentially, realistically, this is not the way to go about it. This is just some mock lineups based on the contracts on Cap Friendly and what I can kind of mock up and figure out. So I have a question mark on the second line left wing position. You'll get to the bottom and you can probably already read the graphic and understand where I'm going. Ryan Nugent Hopkins costs what? $6 million. So perfect on that second line. To play him on the third line is just silly notions. Boys, I do not understand why anyone wants Nuge to play third line minutes and, we need Draisaitl to drive his own line. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I'll keep explaining why in a second here. Yes, Puljujärvi on the second line. Guys, $2 million should be able to do the deed for him to get him back into contract with the Oilers. Hopefully after the hip surgery, he comes back stronger, more in control of himself, I guess is the term I'd be looking for. If you get Puljujärvi in control of himself, suddenly you guys, we have ourselves a player that could be an absolute wrecking ball out there offensively, kind of board play wise, and just overall in general. Of course, he's got to mature as well, so give him credit where credit is due for what he's done so far in terms of holding together until he got the hip injury, I guess. Now Lucic, I still have Lucic in here just because, guys, the NMC, no movement clause, is a little bit of a disaster to deal with. So hopefully there is a solution to be found there, and we'll figure that out as we go along here in a second. Cave on the third line center role. He did excellent. Didn't score the points, but I think that was more deployment. So you give Cave a chance to score points, possibly 30 this year, should look fine and dandy. He knows what this Oilers team is. He's found some line mates. He should be good to go. Sam Gagner on the third line, that I think is the perfect spot for him. You put him with Lucic, Cave, and let him roll. Why not? But right there, that lineup, that third line, still is costing almost $10 million. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Khaira, if you re-sign him for $1.3 million, 1.35, Maruti you have to bring up from Bakersfield, and then Gambardella on a pro deal, $1 million. Well, right there, guys, that's still over $3 million for your fourth line. That's not as bad as any of the other lines, but still a pretty bad cost for sure when you're talking about the Oilers not upgrading anything this offseason. And then you've got Kyle Brodziak in there at, 13th forward position. I really don't see him going down to the minors, because going down to the minors actually costs the Oilers another $50,000 more in cap space from what I read on Cap Friendly. So don't quote me 100%. I may have misinterpreted. but when you look at it, it does not look good. Now, all said, missing a guy on the second line left wing still costs the Edmonton Oilers $45.2 million for 12 forwards and a missing guy. This is where you ask yourself, what do you re-sign Alex Chiasson for? Is he the solution on that left wing position for that second line with Nuge and Puljujarvi? What kind of deal do you figure out with a guy like Alex Chiasson? And honestly, in my opinion, I don't see the Oilers re-signing him just based on having $45.2 million tied up in the roster, and to get Chiasson back, you're probably spending $2.5. So you'd spend $47.7 million roughly just to keep the roster you had last year. That's literally all you're doing, is keeping the roster you had last year. I hope Ken Holland is wanting to make a little bit bolder of a move and kind of take a look at this roster and say, hey, we have a couple $1 million to work with. Why not make a move? Now, Klefbom, Nurse, your top pair, honestly, for next year has got to be. That's $7.367 million. Then you've got Larson and Russell. That's $8.16 million. Then you've got Person and Sekera. That's honestly what I see. If we don't change the top six too much, I see Person being in there instead of Matt Benning. Joel Person, is it going to happen? I don't know. But that's another $6.5 million. And then you've got Benning and Jones as 7 and 8. Well, right there, guys, that's another $2.62 million. And all said, that cost $24.65 million just to keep the defensive core we had last year. Get a bit cheaper, Person over Benning. And then, of course, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You see Jones not necessarily in that mix. So it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Koskinen, 4.5, 3 years, $4.5 million. Yeah, we all know the trick. And Shane Sterrett needs a pro deal, so $1 million to Shane Sterrett as well. Gives us $5.5 million for the goaltending. There you go. That's the goaltending situation. Honestly, you sign a backup for $1 million and you hope and pray he can hold steady. Buyouts, you've got Benoit Pouliot still. Yeah, you've got Benoit Pouliot still on the books. $1.33 million, and Eric Greiba, who was bought out as well, at $330,000. That builds up $1.63 million in cap space alone, which means the final projected number is $76.983 million. That accounts for Brandon Manning being traded. Well, you hope. And projecting an $85 million cap ceiling leaves the Oilers $8 million in cap space to fill two holes. That does not allow us a lot of room to upgrade. That's the issue. We can sit here and basically, this is an ideal roster for next season, and we still have two holes with only $8 million to upgrade it, and you're rolling Zach Kassian on the top line. You're rolling Jesse Puljujarvi on the second line. You're rolling Lucic on the third line. You're right. We are nowhere near a good situation cap-wise. That's the problem. So for the Oilers, guys, I hope you really enjoyed having this graphic up here to help me explain it when I go over the numbers for you. But for the Oilers, it just does not help out the fact that you're trying to upgrade the roster and you've got to trade Brandon Manning just to be able to have that $8 million in cap space, and then hope the cap goes up to $85 million. Will it? Might it go higher? Possibly. And then you've got to hope and pray that you can find a guy on the second line left wing to do that job that can actually fill that role, and then hope and pray you get something going. So let's go over to, where is it? Mock draft calculators, armchair GM, tools, calculators. Where the heck is my players? There we go. Free agents. That's what I'm looking for. Free agents for the 2019 season. You've got Jason Spezza, who's coming off a $7.5 million contract. You can probably get him for $4.5 million to throw on the left wing there, but that's a 36-year-old guy, right? So that doesn't exactly solve as much as we'd like. The one name I will keep circling back to that might be a solution if you can get him back for $3.5 million, $3 million, somewhere in that neighborhood, is Jordan Eberle. That is the guy that fills those 3 question marks on that left wing role perfectly within our budget. That's my take, and I will keep hammering that home. Other than that, there's very few guys that actually solve the problem, because you've got William Karlsson, who will be due for a pay raise. You've got nobody really falling off the table here. You've got Gustav Nyquist, maybe get him for $4.5 million. And then maybe Brock Nelson out of New York, who had a decent season. There's a couple of names, but do any of them solve that problem and actually upgrade the roster enough to be a playoff roster? That is the question when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers next season. And just mock lineups as they sit right now, guys, there is not much room for upgrades at all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. It's an early morning Saturday video. A little bit tired, but we'll rock and we'll roll it. I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. I will catch you in the next one.